Oh, there we go. I got you.
Yay.
There we go.
Oh, you have a nice setup too.
It took me a long time.
Yeah, that's why I thought, you know what, I'm going to open the wine ahead of time since I'm co-hosting and make sure that I get things laid out.
Well, it's you don't realize it, but all that fussing when you're trying to taste can be a little bit of a challenge. So
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. So
that's what I thought. I'm not a person that likes to do stuff at the last second.
All right.
same way.
You're looking great now, Patrick.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
Are we going to see your face today too, or are you?
You actually look like you have a clue.
Probably has 2 clues.
Yeah.
Hey, Elsa.
What? Hi, honey.
Hey, oh, so good, Elsa. Look at you.
Hey, look at you, Gina. Hey.
Hi, can you give me
Deborah. Look at everybody. Mia.
Linda?
Well, come on, then
Can
go.
you be presenting?
Mia. Hey.
Fred,
Mia.
close your blinds.
Gina, do you want me to make you co-host?
Mine just
Yes,
gets
please,
washed
and
out.
Alex.
Fred, you
Yes?
got to close your blinds. We can't.
Yeah, actually, I got them closed. That's why I'm going to just turn my camera off. That's actually, it's my halo, and that's just sad.
On your head, right?
Yeah, it's my halo. So I don't know. I'm going to try maybe angle it different, or I don't know. Believe it or not, my blinds are closed.
It's that late afternoon southern sun.
Yeah, comes right through there.
Wow.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm having a very hard time not tasting these ahead. Let me just say.
Oh, I won't judge you if you pre-taste.
You won't?
No. I have already. I've tasted 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Hi, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny has his
His own Zoom account.
yeah, but he's got his own drink samples he's gonna do. So
All right.
He's doing the chocolate sampling.
yeah, he's gonna try some Hershey chocolate. And
I'm fine. I'm in a Zoom that's tasting wine.
Are we opening all of these?
Yeah, go ahead and get them all open. And I'd also recommend opening your little packets of chocolate because they're really finicky to open.
I know. I've eaten 2 of them already. Well, I had to try them.
I can't wait. My goodness.
Oh. I probably should have done this before, right?
Yeah, that's what I recommend before we get started, getting everything open. Especially watch out with the bottle of Bertetto. It can be a little tricky to get the cork out.
That one was
Sherry, turn off your microphone so we can all chat, Sherry.
Oh, sorry.
So for those of you that don't know, this is my wife, Susan. I'm going to wave to y'all now.
Susan,
Susan,
are you this week's wife?
as
far as I know.
Over here.
Hi, Susan.
Oh, wow.
Linda, we only have, what, 20 people, so we're still waiting for like 18 more.
We have 20, yes.
Well, actually, yeah, like 18 or 19 more.
Yeah, because some people, it's 2 people on one account. You look very nice, Alex.
Oh, thanks. Thought I should actually, look,
This is the
look
most
nice
stressful.
and look like I haven't rolled out of bed. So.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I can see this is not.
Your glasses.
I see Patrick's there. He's looking like he is ready to share volumes of knowledge.
Prepare to be dazzled.
I always am.
A true tour on actually how to open these wine glasses appropriately and sophisticatedly. It looks like I'm a mass murderer right now. I'm like,
What are you opening right there? Is that the port wine?
yeah.
You got. It's just a real simple. There you go.
Yeah, I gotta get some glasses.
Tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky. I made the. I wanted to make sure that it was child-proof, so I found the hardest bottles to open and packets of chocolate because it took me forever to get everything put together.
This is so funny. So yeah, I feel like I need a proper demonstration on even like how to open a glass of wine in front of like people.
Oh,
We'll do that for the next wine tasting. How not to look like a jabroni when you're tasting wine.
That's our
Seriously. Okay.
You have to buy the wine opener that cuts through the paper and everything, foil and everything.
Oh,
That's what I did.
And you still can't.
okay, I got one.
It's awful when you've got the fancy
Hey, so again, for anybody that just joined, make sure you get your bottles of wine open and your packets of chocolate open before we taste, because it might take you a little while.
Should we pour?
Yeah, go ahead. You can pour.
What type of glass does bruschetta come with?
Did you ask what kind of glass should you be using?
Yeah, for the bruschetta.
I'm pretty sure Fred's just drinking out of the bottle with a straw, but for everybody else, I like this glass that I have here. It's just a traditional overture glass, a white wine glass. Really nice with bruschetta. Perfect. Yeah, there you go. That is the glass I use for every wine I taste, including champagne.
Yeah,
this is my glass.
These paper straws are not working, Patrick.
Who's got a paper straw? Said that.
Yeah, but it's recyclable.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, fine.
Kirk, is that your small wine cellar down at the beach?
Linda, should we go ahead and get started?
That's totally up to you, Alex. We have
22.
We have 22 plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we wait 4 more minutes? Let's do it at.
Yeah, let's just give it like 1 more minute and then we can.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah.
When I poured the Piemonte, it smoked. It was smoking.
I don't know if I can help you with that one.
That's what I was wondering too. I don't think they can see us.
No, and prosciutto. We need our.
Looks like Kirk is in Napa Valley in some ancient cave with many casks.
Just in our cellar at the beach.
Yeah. The small
that was
one,
the
right?
famous Smith Anderson
Don't tell anyone though.
Yeah. You don't want to be in one in Napa Valley. There's not much left.
Oh,
First, you build that with the proceeds from your book.
That's what my book's all about.
As long as you're not indicted, Kirk, we're okay.
Yes, we don't want you to get scooped off your yacht in the middle of the harbor.
Yeah, no indictments.
I've got a bigger motor. They can't catch me.
Wine cellar.
Dad said to make sure you're on mute because he said he thought you were mute.
Jim Dorset, where's Win?
She is in the mountains.
Can they see? Oh.
And
This is the
yeah,
fun part.
it was a little chilly yesterday. I had to put on a sweater in the evening.
Thank you very much for that weather report. Jeez. I think it got down to 68 here.
Hey, Mary Beth.
For a minute.
All right, let's just go ahead and get started. I have a couple of like opening remarks anyway, so hopefully any last minute attendees will come in while I'm talking. So why don't we go ahead and get started? First, I'd just like to welcome everybody. It's so nice to see all of your faces. Welcome to our first virtual club fundraiser. Not really kind of what I was hoping for, but we are going to make lemonade out of lemons. Thank you all for attending and supporting the club. Really looking forward to this evening. Just wanted to thank you all for being here. I do have a couple of other thank yous. First, I'd like to say a huge thank you to City Club Raleigh for agreeing to partner with us and host this event for us. I don't know if all of you know Fred Sturhan, but he's one of our newest members, and he is the general manager over at City Club, and he's just been absolutely fantastic to work with. So thank you, Fred. Also, I'll probably say this a million times, but thank you, Patrick, for being here and for running this event for us. Patrick is a sommelier over at City Club. And he is just a wealth of knowledge. So we're just very excited to have him here. He's also been an absolute pleasure to work with. So just thank you both for doing this for us. We really appreciate it. I'd also just like to thank Linda really quickly for doing the evites for me and kind of helping me tally up all of our ICPs and the raffle tickets. So thank you. Also like to thank the board and Eric for all of their support and encouragement for this event. I would like to thank Dana Johnson for her input on the event and for obtaining all of those really nice gold rotary labels that were on all of your packages. So thank you, Dana. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Tina Yacone. She is like my right-hand woman. Could not have done this without her. She's just been an incredible sounding board, and her help has just been invaluable on this. So thank you, Gina. I think that's all I have. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I do want to make one last push for any raffle tickets for anybody who wants to buy any more. We're only like $70 away from our fundraising goal. So do I have any takers? Anybody?
I'll take one.
Awesome. Do you want a small one or a large one?
I'll do a large one.
Okay, cool. Actually, it would help if I had a pen to write that down with, but
Alex, I'll commit to another large one as well. This is
perfect. Y'all are great.
So that was Gina, and you guys could also write it in the chat so we don't forget.
So Gina and then Paul. Was it Paul?
Yep, it was me.
All right, guys, that means we're only $30 away. Come on.
I'll take one.
Oh, Tom.
Mia.
Mia, do you want a small one or a large one?
Large.
You guys.
Living large.
Oh, it looks like we have some through the chat as well. Tom Packer will take 2 more small raffle items.
Great. Then with that,
I'll take one.
Oh, and 2 more for Eric Stevens.
I'll take one as well.
Small ones.
You guys are the greatest.
We have 2 small ones from Johnny. And then I heard Elsa say that she wanted one.
Right.
You want small ones or large ones?
Whatever you got left, girlfriend.
I got them all. Tell me what you want.
I'll have a large one.
Hey, Dad, who just showed up, he'll take a large one.
Awesome. Was that Carrie?
Yeah, it's well for Eric.
Awesome.
Eric Larson.
I'll take a large one as well.
That was Sherry. We'll take a large one.
Guys, all right, well, we've just exceeded our goal. Please keep buying raffle tickets. This is amazing. Seriously, thank you all. I was going to do a raffle draw at this moment, but I need just a little bit of time to add all of the new buyers in. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Patrick, and we'll just do we'll just save the raffle drawing for after the first tasting. So I do want to introduce Patrick. Like I said before, he is a sommelier over at City Club, and I will let him talk about his background because he knows it way better than I do. He is a level 3 sommelier over at City Club. Like I said, he is very knowledgeable about wine. And so welcome, Patrick, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and very happy to be hosting this tasting with the Rotary Club. I know the City Club Raleigh has been a long partner with Rotary, and you know, we've hosted Rotary on Mondays for years, and this is just a continuation of the great relationship we have. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Ewald. I am the sommelier at the City Club of Raleigh. I am also now the national sommelier for Club Corp, for our larger company at large. I got my start in Chicago. I actually got my my degree in hospitality. I'm sorry, in fire science, and was actually in the fire department for many years before I became a sommelier. And happened to fall into the world of wine and dining because most firefighters had to have another career to make ends meet. And luckily for me, I landed with the right people. I pursued my passion, and I've been able to, you know, find my way to this place where I'm at now. And I've been very lucky. I will say that being a sommelier is a labor of love. It's not something that you do casually. It's something that you do when you pursue because it's something that you really enjoy. And you know, I'm very blessed to be here, and it's made everything in my life better because understanding wine really truly makes you understand everything. The beauty of wine lives in everything. Wine is poetry. No wine will ever taste like any other wine, and I'm very fortunate to have this blessing. So I'm just gonna get right into it. We are doing wine and chocolate today, two of my favorite things in the world. If you don't know, we are tasting Vidiri chocolate today. If you're not familiar with Vidiri, they are located in downtown Raleigh, right on Davie Street, across the street from the pit. They're one of a few real artisans who work in downtown Raleigh that I think add a lot of character to our community. And their chocolates we use them here at the club, and I will say in my professional culinary experience, their chocolates are top notch. They are unbelievable. They're beautiful. They're well crafted. Their facility is beautiful. They have a factory. It's almost like walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. If you have the ability to support them and buy some chocolate from them and go to the facility, I know that they could definitely use some support right now. So we will be tasting all Vidiri chocolate today with the wines I've selected. A couple of rules that I use for pairing wine to chocolate. Wine and chocolate, I think, can be one of the most beautiful pairings. However, wine and chocolate can also be pretty tough if you don't pair it properly. So the two rules I have really for pairing wine to chocolate are pretty simple. The first rule I have is your wine should always be a little bit sweeter than the chocolate that you're eating. So in this case, I've paired wines to everything we have, and they are all going to be sweeter and a little bit fruitier than what we're tasting. In addition to that, always match intensity to intensity. So you'll notice as we taste wines across the spectrum here, we're tasting a Brichetto, a beautiful frothy kind of medium weight red wine from Italy with a milk chocolate. And then we're tasting a pretty masculine, dark, structured Syrah with a dark chocolate. And then we're going to do this cool, robust, fine tawny port with a dark chocolate with a little sea salt in it. So I really like the idea of when you have a pretty bold chocolate or a pretty feminine soft chocolate or milk chocolate, make sure that the wine that you're pairing with it is typically of the same caliber of intensity because it'll make things really stand out for you. Additionally, there's a couple ways you can pair chocolate. You can pair chocolate to complement what you're tasting. So in this case, with the Brichetto that we're going to taste in a second, we are going to not only match the intensity of the chocolate and the richness of the chocolate, the fattiness of this chocolate, but we're going to do with a wine that's equally as opulent and beautiful and round on the palate. And then in the case of the port wine, we're going to both complement and contrast our wine with the intensity, but also sweet against salty, which is a really beautiful contrast that makes you taste flavors more intensely. So the first wine we're going to go into, this is Brachetto from Northern Italy. This is a very, very famous wine in Northern Italy. It's in the Piedmont region of Italy that is quite famous for the quality of their red wines. And this region particularly, the Acqui region of Italy, which is right on the coast, is quite famous for the quality of its Brachetto. This Brachetto wine actually goes back to the Roman era. There's a lot of legacy to this wine. If you swirl the glass, you'll notice these really frothy, beautiful, fine bubbles, very sensual. In this case, this is referred to as frizzante. So this is not quite a full sparkling wine. This is somewhere in between, and it's meant to make this wine be really sensual and elegant on the palate. And in this case with chocolate, these bubbles are going to wash off all that fat and contrast that fat and make the chocolate taste fattier and make the wine taste fresher and lighter and give it a lot of levity. So, so before we really dig into the wine, go ahead and grab your chocolate. This is Vidiri's dark milk chocolate. So this is 55% cocoa, and then the rest of it is going to be the chocolate the fat. So there's a high ratio of fat in this chocolate. So go ahead and give it a taste. Chew it up. You'll notice, you definitely taste the quality of the chocolate, but the glycerol fat in this chocolate is absolutely beautiful. It just coats your mouth with richness. You can taste the cocoa, the nuttiness and the richness and the fruitiness of this chocolate. It's very high in quality. It just coats your mouth with beautiful richness. So now go ahead and take a big sip of your Brachetto. Watch how those fine bubbles kind of wash the fat out and really make that fat, give it really nice, beautiful, lively fattiness. But those bubbles and the fruit they stand on edge because that contrast of flavor from earthy chocolate to fruity flavors make both taste really, really beautiful. So this wine here, this Brachetto with chocolate is a classic pairing. It is one of my favorite wines. This legacy of this wine goes back to the Roman era. And what's really interesting about it is there's a story about this wine that it actually, Julius Caesar actually gifted this wine to Cleopatra when he first met her. And when he did it, she fell in love with this wine and drank this wine often. And she described this wine. I wrote it down because I was kind of embarrassed to actually memorize it. But she said it would light the fire of all of her lovers. And as you can tell with this wine, it's just that. It's beautiful, it's sensual, it's lively and fresh. It's got beautiful acidity that keep it fresh. Those little bubbles just wash your palate. So again, go ahead and return to that chocolate and take a big bite of it and let that fat wash over your mouth and that beautiful earthiness. And then as you're chewing that chocolate, just let it melt a little bit. And now bring the Brachetto to your palate, to your mouth, and wash that Brachetto off, that chocolate with the Brachetto. It's one of my favorite pairings in wine and chocolate. And again,
Patrick, have you considered an alternate career as a poet?
I think good wine tasting is all about adjectives, so I have a pretty.
Hey, Patrick.
So, yeah.
Patrick, may I point out from a historical perspective that Julius Caesar and Cleopatra had 2 children, so it worked for him. Just saying.
I'm sure it was a Brachetto. So this Brachetto, it's not meant to be it's not a very complicated wine. It's a simple wine. It's meant to be consumed simply as an aperitif. So my mother's Italian, and growing up, she would drink Brachetto over ice with a little bit of citrus squeezed into it as an aperitif because it's so light and fresh and delightful to drink. Also, what's nice about this wine, it's light enough to be enjoyed with light desserts, chocolate. So this easily could be a nice way to finish a meal. Those fine bubbles really act as a digestif and help you feel nice and light and energized after you've had a big meal and maybe you're a little bloated. But this Brachetto, absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite pairings in the world with chocolate. Those fine frizzante, frizzy bubbles are beautiful and frothy and elegant that just match that glycerol fat that this chocolate has. So again, the nice light levity of this wine really matches the nice, elegant mouthfeel of this chocolate. Milk chocolate with a little Berchetto is an absolutely beautiful pairing. Any other questions about the pairing?
Yes, can you say that quote one more time regarding something about my lovers?
You want to? Yes. The quote is, "It lights a fire of all of her lovers."
Any newlyweds on here besides Kevin?
Sorry, I think there's some children on. My apologies. I try to keep that as G-rated as I could.
Well, I invited my wife. I hope she's drinking a lot.
Good. How's everybody like the pairing?
It's delicious.
It's delicious. It is my favorite.
Fantastic.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, please enjoy while we go to the next stage. I think we're going to raffle off some wine at this point.
Yes.
All right.
1 second.
Do you recommend that we drink a sip of water to cleanse the palate in between wines and chocolates?
Yeah, so once we get to the next, thank you for pointing that out. Once we get to the next wine, if you do have some water, I have a nice big glass of water. Rinsing your palate with this will definitely help you taste the nice chocolate in the wine. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. But you know, as we're going through the next steps too, please enjoy all you want. This is a really nice aperitif, so it is a really nice way to get started.
I just want to say I did what your mother does, and it's delicious. Ice in lime.
My mother would be very proud. It's her favorite.
She's a wise woman.
If you squeeze a little lime into it and some herbs, so typically I like drinking vermouths and a lot of light wines, but I found a lot of times with wines like this, some fresh herbs and some fresh citrus over ice with this on a hot summer day is really, really, really beautiful, really fun, really easy drinking, and you know, not too high in alcohol. So it's a really nice way to just sip on some wine on a hot day.
Great. So I am going to go ahead and let's do our first raffle. So we are going to raffle off a bottle of wine from the City Club's collection. Gina, should I share the screen or should I just do it on mine?
I feel like you should at least share your screen for the first one. Then people understand what you're doing.
Okay. Let me figure out how to do this because never.
No worries. Let me see if I can.
Wait, Linda, I can't.
Yeah, let me make you co-host. I made Gina co-host. Now I have to make you. Okay. Hold on. Then you can.
Everybody continue to.
Now you're good, Alex.
Keep drinking your wine, everybody.
You were good. All you have to do is share your screen now. See where it says, see where your screen is, just click on it and then at the bottom, share screen.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is my version of raffle tickets since we are not in person. So thank you, Gina, for suggesting that. So we are going to, let me make sure.
That's cool.
All right. So this is for the bottle of wine from the City Club's collection.
That's a good idea.
All right, Kirk is our winner.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Is Kirk on?
Kirk doesn't have space in his cellar for any more wine, so I guess I'll have to take that one.
You'll have to take that one, Jim.
So how do we do this now? Do I get to pick the giant winner?
So you have won a bottle of wine from City Club's collection. So congratulations, Kirk. Yay. And I guess whenever you're back in town, I can get the details from Patrick, but you can just head over to City Club and pick that up whenever you're back in town.
Kirk, you won the grand prize, man. You trust me, you're gonna.
Hold one back, will you?
All right, and then why don't we go ahead and do our first small raffle drawing as well. So we are raffling off this lovely wine decanter.
Decanter.
And I will go ahead and share this.
It's called the
Let me go to. All right, so same deal. Obviously, there's a lot more of you. All right, so this is for the wine decanter. All right, Elsa, congratulations.
Oh, yay! Thank you.
All right, so for the small, hold on, let me go back to this. There we go. Okay, for the small raffle prizes, I'm actually going to be putting those. I'm just going to be ordering them from online, and then we'll just ship them directly to your house, so you guys don't have to worry about coming to pick them up or anything like that. So congratulations, Kirk, and congratulations, Elsa. And then
Thank you.
I will hand it back over to Patrick.
All right.
What a
Okay.
fun item.
So for our second wine here, if you don't have it open already, the next wine is going to be this beautiful Syrah from the Columbia Valley of Washington State. So for those of you who've never had this wine before, La Cole 41 is the name of this winery, and it's actually one of the oldest wineries in the Columbia Valley. This is the third generation of winemakers in this family, which for Washington State is quite old. And if you look at that bottle and you see the schoolhouse on there, it's an old schoolhouse that is actually renovated. It's where the winery is, but it's a really charming, beautiful place. If you're ever in the Columbia Valley, you have one winery to visit. This is by far one of my favorite wineries in the Columbia Valley to visit. So in this case now, we're moving on to a dark chocolate. There's a higher percentage of cocoa, much less fat in this chocolate. It's much more earthy. It's much more tannic. It's got more structure. So this chocolate, to me, if you paired it with a sweet wine, it wouldn't be a bad pairing. But to me, sweet with tannic and dark typically are kind of a little bit of too much of a contrast. And sometimes I think it makes wine taste cloyingly sweet and chocolate taste too dark and tannic and earthy. So in this case, I wanted to pick a wine when I'm pairing dark chocolate. I like pairing it to dry, full-bodied red wines. And in this case, I think a Syrah, especially a New World American Syrah, is a really great way to go because American Syrahs are structured. They have beautiful, bold fruit qualities to them, a lot of red and black fruit qualities to them. Nice, bright acidity, and really beautiful fruit structure with a little bit of minerality and earthiness to really complement the minerality in the chocolate. So go ahead and grab your chocolate, your dark chocolate, and take a taste of it. You can definitely see in this chocolate the contrast between the milk chocolate. Much darker, much more tannic, much less fat, but it's still fatty. But the minerality and the earthiness really come through. There's one thing also to note in this. Wines, really good red wines, all red wine, has something called tannin in it. And tannin is what makes wine interesting. It's what makes all red wine interesting. This chocolate possesses the same tannin. And so what tannins are in a wine, when you're drinking wine, I liken tannins to when you're drinking a full-bodied red wine, what makes your teeth, it gives you that coating on your teeth and your tongue. It's almost a little gritty. The best association I could make to it is if you leave a tea bag and tea in your cup too long and you taste it, and it's that very tannic structure, like gritty flavor. That's what tannin is. Tannin in chocolate and good red wine are what make a good wine. They give it longevity. They give it nuance and interest. They also help highlight other qualities. So a lot of tannin in a dark chocolate will help highlight the little fat that's in it. And it'll also help you taste the really robust fruit in it. This dark chocolate to me is very fruity, a lot of red fruit characteristic in this chocolate that's only brought out to my palate because there's such rigid tannins in it. Now, the Syrah is also somewhat tannic. It's a full-bodied red wine. It's got beautiful black fruit. It is sweeter and fruitier than this chocolate, but not by much, because I wanted that little contrast, that close enough to make both of them stand out. So go ahead and take a sip of your Syrah. When you taste, it just, that like tannin, you can taste it around your mouth, that beautiful tannin structure, that fruit jumps out at it. It makes your mouth water. The acid in this wine is quite high, and that acid will help wash all the fat off your palate and help contrast that beautiful chocolate to really highlight the beautiful earthy flavors in the chocolate. So in this case, with dark wine, dark chocolate, and a full-bodied dry red wine, this is my favorite kind of pairing. I'm complementing really dark, bold flavors to a really dark, bold wine that's sweeter and fruitier, but not by much. And in doing so, what I'm hoping to do is really draw on that slight contrast to really highlight the high points of each. So this chocolate, again, dark, masculine structure, but when you have it with this wine, hopefully it'll bring out some more of the fruit and some more of that fresh, lively earthiness. In the Syrah, I'm looking for that contrast to really highlight the elegance in the wine, the softer red fruit qualities in this wine, the nice fleshiness, and then it's also going to draw on that acid to really brighten the wine up and not make it so intense on your palate. So again, go ahead and give it a taste, just like we did the last time. Chew up that chocolate on your palate, let it melt around the outside, let it coat your mouth, and then take a nice big sip of that chocolate or that wine and wash your palate with it. And again, if you're not familiar with Vidier chocolate, I honestly think this is some of the best chocolate you can get in our market. And again, if you have the ability to support them, honestly, they're one of my favorite artisans in downtown Raleigh.
Patrick, how is this Syrah with a steak?
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful steak. This Syrah with big, fat, earthy flavors is absolutely beautiful. It cuts through fat really well. It's got enough tannin structure. That's why I picked the Syrah from Washington State and not California. California, because it's warmer and more temperate, produces much softer, fruitier, more feminine expressions of Syrah, which in my opinion are really fantastic. But this Syrah, because it's produced in Washington State, which is cooler, it has a longer growing season, to me produces a slightly more old world expression of Syrah. Because it's a cooler climate, there's more tartaric acid in the fruit when they're harvesting. So it gives the wine more dry structure, a little bit more rigidity and earthiness that to me, when paired with food and fat, make it beautiful. So think about like a really fatty, earthy steak, and you're eating that steak and this beautiful fruity Syrah with beautiful structure and tannins and high acid just cutting right through that fat. And that contrast of that acid and that fruit should make that steak taste super fatty and really earthy. And to me, I mean, one of my favorite pairings is Washington State full-bodied red wines and beef for that reason.
Well, you've got me thinking about it quite a lot.
Shouldn't we have a steak tasting now? Let's have a steak
Absolutely,
tasting.
I totally endorse that.
This may be a dumb question, Patrick, but is a Syrah better with like a, well, you said a fatty steak. So
yes, sir.
What would be ideal with the fillet? Less fat.
With the fillet, so I really like fatty steaks because I like the glycerol fat. With leaner meats, you can go with leaner wines. So I like wines when you get to like such a lean meat. I really like wines that are a little tighter and a little earthier. And what I mean by that are old world wines. So I really like Bordeaux. I like wines from the Northern Rhone. So if I picked a wine with a fillet, I would pick something like a Syrah from the Northern Rhone Valley because it's a little bit more structured. It's a little earthier. It's got higher natural acidity and natural tannin structure. And those wines with leaner meat to me really play out a beautiful contrast. I really enjoy. But to be honest, beef and Syrah are really an easy pairing. I don't think you'll ever go wrong with it. But yeah, leaner steaks, leaner beef to me are really nice with tighter wines. And by tighter wines, I mean less on the fruit and more on the earth notes and the higher acid notes and maybe a little bit lower in alcohol. American wines tend to be, we associate intensity to quality in America. So a lot of times our wines are much higher in alcohol And I think our wines can be really dominating with finer foods. And to me, a filet, because it possesses less fat, tends to have more nuanced flavor that if you have such a bold red wine with it, it can really dominate a filet. So things that are a little bit lower in alcohol and a little bit lighter and more mineral typically play off leaner meats much better. So bison, filet, duck, stuff like that is beautiful with French, old world French wines, Bordeaux, even Burgundy, or maybe something from the Northern Rhone.
So what we need to do in order of filet is just say, Patrick, you pick the wine.
That's usually the easiest road to go down. Absolutely.
Just like Charles, you pick the scotch.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
How did everybody like the pairing? Is there any other questions maybe?
I have a question. Patrick, are you saying that the primary thing that makes Old World and New World wines different is just the Old World wines are typically grown in lower temperature places?
A little bit. I mean, you certainly have. There's certainly an exception to that, but I think it's more of a cultural difference. I think Old World wines and Old World countries, and by Old World, I'm sorry, I mean specifically France, Italy, older wine producing countries that we inherited our heritage from as a wine producing country. The American, I've discovered in my travels in wine and in my writing that Americans, our palates are much different than the European palate. In Europe, they prefer foods that aren't quite as sweet, aren't quite as viscous and intense, and their wines really replicate the foods that they eat. So in America, I mean, I hate to say this, but we like high fructose corn syrup, we like barbecue, we like big, bold flavors, and so our wines typically tend to be a representation of that. Not always the case, but more often than not. And so to me, I typically run it more over cultural lines. Whereas the palate for European wine drinking typically is lower in alcohol, usually by a couple percentage points, and typically drier and earthier. They drink their wines to pair with food and the cuisine of their culture. In America, we kind of tend to taste wine more to our taste, and that's why most of our wines are varietal driven as opposed to place. So if you go to America, you're going to drink a Syrah from Washington State. If you go to the northern region, or if you go to the Rhone region of France, you would never see Syrah listed on their bottle because it's more about the flavors of that region, what's appropriate to drink it with that in that region, what you produce in that region. So in that region, it would kind of be sacrilegious to think that you're drinking a full-bodied Rhone wine with like a piece of fish from Provence. You want something that would match where that wine is produced. And in America, we have a little bit of a different association. We like things for what they mean to us, and in this case, this Syrah is beautiful, and it really holds up to full-bodied, flavorful things. And so in doing so, this chocolate's great, but with a really nice charred steak, it'd be beautiful. But yeah, overall, in my opinion, I think French wine and Old World wine typically pair a little bit better with food because they're made to be a little bit more intricate. They kind of fit different fault lines in food a little bit easier. Any other thoughts or questions? I hope that was a decent answer. I was trying to keep it as easy as possible.
So would you consider Malbecs and Merlots as Old World wines? Heavier body?
It's funny you say that. Malbec and Merlot are actually from Bordeaux. So those are actually the varietals of Bordeaux. So in Bordeaux, the main varietals of Bordeaux are Malbec, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc, and they were all born there. And then they found their place around the world, like think about Mendoza, Argentina, and think of of course, the West Coast of America. And they were brought there by immigrants and different communities that knew wine as part of their culture and their belief and took hold in those places. So they are Old World varietals that found new life in other places in the world and really became what they are there. So in California, I mean, it's dominated by Cabernet Sauvignon. It's what we know California to be. And we inherited that culture and that varietal from Bordeaux, from immigrants, and turned it into our own culture. And that's what's so beautiful about wine and the history in the wine and how wine really just fits into everything so beautifully is because wine is a representation of us. Wine represents a culture, a place and time, and the people that produced it. And what makes wine so beautiful is it's really a time capsule of a place and time. So Malbec from Mendoza, Argentina will only ever taste like Malbec from Mendoza, Argentina because it's produced in this climate. And so that's what's so beautiful. And sometimes I think that association gets a little hard to manage if you've only ever known varietal driven wine. but it's the perfect plug to say, if that's how you've ever understood wine, go out and buy a Bordeaux at the store. Try something from France that's regionally specific. Drink it, and then figure out what the varietals are, and really think about what they do in that region and why, because their wine culture is very closely associated to their food culture and their regional food culture of that place. So I mean, it's a great question. It is an old world wine that got, brought to a new world place and created its own new culture based on the people that live there. So it's in a way it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really, let me be naive. Where is the chocolate company located? Can you give me, where is it in downtown?
Yeah. If you know where the pit is located,
of course.
they're directly across the street. And it is awesome.
Warehouse, Chester?
It's it's on the front end of it, right on Davie Street. So, and if you've never been there, they have a little chocolate factory, and you can actually walk through it, and they'll show you how they make their chocolate. They'll taste chocolate with you. They do it because they're passionate about it. And I will tell you that I've fawned over them for many years. But if you have children, take your children there. It is one of my favorite places. And to be honest, I mean, I'm from Chicago. I don't recall any place in Chicago that was even remotely like this. And this is an artisan in downtown Raleigh that I think really defines us as a city. And I'm really proud to have them. And that's why I highlight their chocolate. But yeah, if you have the opportunity to go there, please visit. It is one of my favorite places to take, even visitors to take in downtown Raleigh. It's beautiful.
And Patrick, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
We went there the other day, and they have right now, and I guess this might be a COVID thing, but they have a window that's open, and you can buy soft serve ice cream from the window.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, fun.
Soft serve ice cream from the dairy. So I don't know if they use, special Videri chocolate in their soft serve ice cream. I guess they do. But it's super fun.
Mm-hmm. They also have a little coffee bar inside too that I think is really exceptional. It might not be open at the moment, but yeah, we buy their chocolate and use it in our chef Andrew really loves their chocolate, so we buy it and use it in most of our chocolate dishes here. And especially from his perspective, not only is it great chocolate, but it's top tier. It is a very finely made chocolate, and the owner, if you ever met her and her team, they're really passionate about their chocolate. What I am to a sommelier, I really think they are to chocolate. They're very highly respected in their craft. Any other questions or thoughts about the Syrah or the chocolate?
Great.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Okay. So it's time to do another raffle. So we are going to raffle off this lovely 3-tier stackable wine rack. Give me one. Okay. Wait. Wrong. Well,
it's so clever.
Why is this not working? There we go. Okay, sorry, y'all. I somehow got my Zoom screen up at the top and I couldn't click between the two. All right, so the winner of the wine rack is Gina.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Gina.
Yay. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy.
Hold up your Oscar, honey.
Congrats, Gina. All right, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Patrick.
Alrighty. So if you haven't done so already, if you have some water, now's a really great time to take a big swig and wash your palate out, because this transition might be a little precarious if you don't.
It's heavy.
Say it again.
I said, isn't port heavier?
Yes, port is definitely heavier, it's sweeter, it's more viscous, and not a bad transition, but definitely would help to taste the nuances. It is one of my favorite wines in the world, so I'll just get right into it. So port wine, one of my favorite wines, is what's referred to as a fortified wine. This wine was created with the intention to carry it across oceans. So the idea about this wine was during the age of colonialism, you had to get across the ocean, and in doing so, alcohol was a really important thing to have. And so the idea behind port wine, being that it's fortified, is it's actually fortified with a little bit of brandy or a little clear spirit to add viscosity and intensity to it, with the intention that you would actually add enough viscosity to make this wine last in the belly of a hot ship over the course of a journey across the ocean to another civilization. So the idea behind wines like this is regular wine on a ship would spoil because it didn't have enough alcohol. And the reason why this wine is so special to us and to the Americans is because this wine, which is Portuguese, so it's port wine because it's from Oporto, Portugal, and it's made from the varieties of the Douro Valley, which sits right behind it. They fortify it with a little bit of brandy, so it is slightly higher than traditional wine alcohol content. It's made to survive in very harsh conditions and harsh climates. It's also made to age for years and years and years and years. So this wine in particular, this house, the Kopke house, one of my favorite houses in the world, this house is the oldest producer of port. They are the first producer of port wine, very storied, historied wine. The house itself, if you look, don't actually have port houses as well as Madeira houses don't actually have a lot of Portuguese names. And the reason why is because it's a lot of English shipping merchant families that actually own these houses and have owned these houses for millennia. And the idea was really brought on by the English Empire. When the English Empire was dominating civilizations around the world, and expanding their empire, they would come down the west coast of Europe, and they would touch Spain, they would touch the island of Madeira and the ports of call. And in those places, these wines became very relevant because as a shipping merchant, you needed to be able to supply your ships with wines that they could then carry across oceans, that they could settle with, that they could drink while they're on the ship, and they could use as a trade good. So this is a full-bodied red wine that's actually fortified with brandy and made to survive across the journey over an ocean. You'll also notice that this bottle has a painted label, with the idea that traditionally a lot of these bottles would have the painted labels on them because these wines were intended to survive in such harsh conditions that they actually thought that the paper labels that they would put on them would disintegrate well before the wine would ever go bad. So traditionally you have painted labels on these bottles because they could sit in a cellar in the belly of a ship for years on end and still be good. And if it was in such a harsh climate, more than likely if you put a paper label on it, you would never have known what was in it because it would have disintegrated well long before the wine was ever bad. So in that case, this is that is with this port wine, which is very historied. The nice thing about this also, you can put the cork back in this and put it back in your refrigerator, and this wine will last for months and months and months, if not years. It'll last a long time. And again, this is like just one of my favorite ways to finish a meal. Port wine is one of the wines that we settled the Americas with. It is very important to our history. Port and Madeira were some of the building blocks of the American colonies. These wines were designed to be carried across the Atlantic to the Americas, and easily some of my favorite wine in the world, and very misunderstood in the Americas. So this is a fine tawny port. And if you've ever been to a restaurant and purchased a port or asked for a port wine, you would notice that there's two kind of dominant styles. There's a ruby and there's a tawny. So if you're ever at a restaurant, you see those options, what they're referring to is when a port wine is made, after 2 years of aging in a barrel, you have to decide what to do with that port wine. If it's a really good port wine and you say, you know what, this vintage is amazing, this port wine is beautiful, this vintage is a hallmark, you're going to take that wine and put it directly in the bottle, and you're going to make a ruby port wine out of it because that wine is so good, you want to make sure you preserve the hallmark of that vintage and that wine. So oftentimes when you see vintage port wines, they're always ruby port wines because it's meant to be specific to that vintage. If you see something like a tawny port, which is what this bottling is right here, what that means is they actually blend their wines together to create a house style. So if you see a 10, a 20, a 30, a 40-year tawny port wine, that's the average age in the barrel when you take the port out of it. So in this case, what they did is they harvested the fruit, they took from the barrel as much as they needed from that vintage, and they added the new wine on top. So every port house is judged by of course, by the quality of the rubies, because the rubies are the best they can ever make, but they only make them on the very best vintages, but they're always judged by the quality of what they can do over time, by the quality of their tawny ports. Tawny ports are always aged in barrel. They're always going to be a little nuttier and more oxidized. They're going to have almost a sherry-like quality to them, where a ruby port is always going to be fleshy and fruity and bright. So this is a very fine tawny port. The average age of the wine in this particular barrel is a 5-year age. They go all the way up to a 70 or 80-year tawny ports, which are very different. But one of my favorite pairings with chocolate, specifically tawny ports for that reason. All right, you ready to taste? Here we go. So we have a dark chocolate, in this case, that is finished with a little bit of sea salt. So when you taste this, I love the contrast of sweet to salty in food, because the rule of contrast means that in contrast on your palate, you taste individual flavors more intensely. If you've ever been to our club, we have a dish on the menu called bacon and cotton candy. And that rule is all about contrast. It's about tasting flavors in contrast to other flavors: sweet, salty, savory, bitter, spicy, umami. This chocolate all by itself is very complicated flavors and nuances of contrast. So go ahead and give this a taste. The one thing that you will notice with this is how fruity this chocolate is. It's exactly the same as the first dark chocolate you taste. I'm sorry, the one with the Syrah. The only real difference is the salt. The contrast of salt makes the fruit jump out of the chocolate. It's beautifully fruity. It's beautifully sweet. It's unctuous on the palate, and it's only because they just added a tiny bit of salt to it. And that contrast is just absolutely electric on your palate. It makes your mouth water intensely. I love chocolate with salt, sea salt in it. So now we have this port wine, richer, fattier, higher in viscosity. The contrast of this fruit and the firmness of this fruit against the salt and the earth of the chocolate should be this beautiful electric contrast, making the port wine taste beautifully fruity, high in acid, fresh, light, and just absolutely whimsical in the palate. It should make the chocolate taste darker and more gritty and earthy, and it should make that cocoa and the fruitiness of that cocoa just explode in your palate. Probably one of my favorite pairings with chocolate in the world is port wine. And in this case, I just love that contrast. To me, that chocolate tastes almost more like the milk chocolate that we first tasted after drinking this port wine than it does a dark chocolate. It highlights all of those beautiful qualities in this wine, in this chocolate, that just make it so elegant. And it really, I mean, you just taste how creamy and rich. You don't get that fruitiness in the chocolate anymore. You get almost the caramel notes, the earthy notes. The fat just lays around your palate. I mean, it's easily one of my favorite wine pairings in the world. But yeah, and one that I don't think a lot of Americans appreciate, because to be honest, we don't drink a lot of fortified wine, but it's definitely underappreciated. So this port wine with chocolate's always a home run. You could also try this port wine with some really pungent cheeses, like blue cheese with this. It's beautiful contrast. Salty things like nuts or savory cured meats, like salty meats, are also really beautiful with this, to play on that salty, earthy contrast of fruit and high viscosity. But yeah, this is easily one of the best pairings I have in my career. I absolutely love this. Any questions?
Patrick, I have a question. If David Hayden drinks this wine, will it make him even more unctuous than he already is?
I'm pretty sure, I've been told that it could actually grow hair. So I'm expecting the next call that he has a big, beautiful, robust head of hair. Should be red too, so.
Well, since I have to speak to you on Monday, I thought I'd start drinking now.
Good idea. Patrick, sort of seriously. So I must admit, drunk quite a bit of port in my life. I've never heard to have it slightly chilled.
Oh yeah. So I believe about this with all wine. All wine, if you put a little chill on it and you let it come up in temperature as you drink it, I believe that it really helps you really bring out more nuance in a wine. I kind of think that a lot of times we drink wines a little too warm. And to me, when the wines are too warm, especially port wine, it tends, because they're higher in viscosity and alcohol, it tends to put more onus on the ether in it or the alcohol. So a lot of times the wines will come off a little boozier than you want them to. And I find that a little chill will subdue that for a little bit, and it'll help you really touch the fruit. And as it warms up, it typically opens up a little bit brighter and a little bit fruitier to me. So with port wine specifically, I like to keep it in the refrigerator, and I like to drink it as it comes up in temperature, because to me it just brings out all these little qualities I think that sometimes I lose when the wine's too warm. And I actually find that to be the case with most wines I drink, specifically red wines and New World wines. Wines that typically are above about 14.5% alcohol, especially red wines, to me do better with a little chill on them, and then to come up in temperature as you drink them, than to be room temperature. Because I think a lot of times as a sommelier, I typically, especially with wines that have a higher viscosity to them, they tend to be a little ethereal to me. They tend to be a little more alcohol forward, and I'm looking for everything beyond that. So yeah, in this case, especially with port wine, I find a little chill really goes a long way.
So I can use your name when I go beat the mess sergeant.
You could, yes. I will stake my reputation on it. Absolutely. I'll fight somebody.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a question. I was always curious about port, and I rarely figure out when Americans didn't drink it a lot, because it was difficult to find out what you pair it with during the meal. So when you go to a restaurant, you got to figure out, are you going to have it as an appetizer? Because it's never served with a meal, only because the port glass is only 3 ounces.
It could be because it has more alcohol. But if you've ever spent any time in Portugal, they actually drink port with every course.
Yeah,
and so
I've been there.
In a delightful pairing, if you've never had it, which is something I actually really enjoy doing at the club, I'll pair a port wine, especially a tawny port wine, with a grilled skirt steak with a high dose of salt on it. And boy, that pairing is electric. That contrast of earth to fat and salt is absolutely beautiful. But traditionally, you could close out a meal with it. That's how we typically drink it. And I really like this with a cheese course at the end of the meal, or to substitute dessert altogether. Like if I don't really feel like I'm maybe a little too full for dessert, a port wine as a substitute for a sweet finish to your meal, to me, is really a nice way to finish, especially with maybe some salty nuts or cheese. But yeah, you're right. Port wine in the United States is very misunderstood. So is Madeira and sherry. And to be honest, I put a special onus here on the club on those things, especially at tasting for our members, because they're so underappreciated, especially dry Madeira and sherry, that I really think we miss a whole piece of our dining experience is missed because we never really enjoy the full beauty of a real meal. And so the aperitif and digestif culture, what this is part of, in America, we don't take enough time to enjoy our food and our meals. We're so quick and we're so moving all the time that really, if you did it right, you would enjoy a nice dry sherry or Madeira or drinking vermouth before you even had your meal, with maybe some small plates, some salad, some cheese. And then maybe you'd have a drink, wine with your meal and your dinner, and then maybe some spirit after towards the end. You'd finish with a beautiful port or a nice Pedro Jimenez sherry with a little pungent cheese or salty nuts. I mean, that's the beauty of a real meal to me, is really enjoying the spectrum of flavors. In America, I think sometimes, especially our culture tends to put an onus on just, very fast. You got to get through your meal. You should have wine with everything. And to be honest, I think we miss out a lot. And this, to me, the way to close on a meal, if you ever want to blow your friends away at a dinner party, bring out a bottle of port wine at the end after the cheesecake and watch everybody's heads explode when they realize how tasty it is.
Hey, Patrick, what's that ice wine?
I love ice wine. A couple of years back, I had the ability to go to British Columbia and work at a vineyard that produced it. And it's extremely expensive because the yield is very low. And I personally think that British Columbia and the Niagara region produce some of the best in North America. If you ever have ice wine and you want to try it with something that's maybe one of the most classic pairings in the world, ice wine and foie gras are that is like the height of food and wine pairing for sommeliers. It's a classic pairing, but I love ice wine.
It's foie gras?
And foie gras. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
We never had.
Wow.
Yeah, hey, we live right in Ontario.
What's the best wine for charcuterie?
For charcuterie, if you were having charcuterie to start a meal, like if you were having it maybe before you enjoyed it, I love dry sherry. Fino sherries, Manzanilla sherries. To me, they're beautiful. They're mineral and slaty. They have these beautiful oxidized long finish with fat and with salt. They're just absolutely electric. If you ever have the ability to go to Spain and enjoy real tapas culture and go to get some real Spanish ham, and I mean, just the ability to sit for a couple hours and enjoy cheese and charcuterie with a fine Fino sherry, probably one of my favorite food experiences in the world. It's absolutely delightful. Try it. Go to the store, buy a nice fine sherry, and next time you have some friends over, have it with some nice charcuterie. You'll be blown away. It's beautiful.
What's the name of the sherry?
Oh boy, there's quite a few. My favorite sherry in the world is called, the house is called Val d'Espino. It is not cheap, but again, it lasts a long time. And it's really good with a little chill on it. If you ever go to Durham, there's a restaurant called Mateo, a Spanish restaurant. If you want a lesson in how you should enjoy sherry with food, they've mastered it. It is beautiful. It is one of my favorite Spanish restaurants, and they have a tremendous sherry selection.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm taking all of like these notes, like I'm adding. It's really kind of obnoxious. Like I keep on like taking notes. But what would you say is really good with a fish dish? Like so just like a light white fish or just a regular white fish. What type of wine would you say is the best pairing for that?
Well, it's pretty tough. I mean, I love fish and wine. I mean, that's just a perfect pairing. It depends on how you're going. Like if you ever have like one of my favorite pairings with like a full-bodied Chardonnay is fish and butter sauce. So like if you like California Chardonnay, if you think California Chardonnay is too oaky and cloying, try it with some buttery whitefish or some lobster, and it is absolutely out of this world tasty because that butter and that fat and that minerality make that Chardonnay beautiful, light, and citrusy. But I love the wines of the Mediterranean, especially the Mediterranean coast. When you think of wines like Albarino, wines from southern Italy, that like Vermentino, wines that have a coastal influence, places that typically are a seafood faring culture or seafood faring place, typically produce wines that pair really well with seafood. So I think of cultures like Spanish and Italian when I think of really good wine and fish pairings, but light, high acid, and bright. Probably the most classic in the world is Sancerre from the Loire Valley of France, which is right on the coast. Is easily one of my favorite pairings. If you ever have Sancerre with oysters or shellfish, it's Sauvignon Blanc that's very minerally. This region in France used to be under the ocean, so there's a lot of shell and shale in the soil, and it just transfers beautifully the wine. But think about wines that have bright acidity and a lot of citrus, and that, I think about citrus and seafood. That contrast of citrus cutting through the fat of seafood is absolutely delightful. My mother's Italian, so Vermentino and Southern Italian white wines for me are the bellwether for great seafood and wine pairings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about the wines we tasted today, or? Well, if you don't know, of course, I'm pretty sure everybody should know because you have your meetings with us most Mondays before the pandemic, but the City Club of Raleigh, we're located downtown. I actually host tastings like this monthly for the club. We also have a wine club, so if you want to learn more about this is pretty much what we do a couple times a month. My goal here with our members is to keep things pretty interesting and pretty engaging. We like to keep things, we call it weird. We don't have any interest in keeping people in the world of the same old experiences. So if you ever have an interest in learning more about wine, connect with a member of the club, come to one of our wine tastings, come to one of our wine club events. We always just have a blast. And the idea is, there's no such thing as pretension in wine. It's it's all about connecting people and connecting to flavors and having new experiences. So, please feel free to reach out to me or to Fred if you ever want to learn more. But we're really proud of our wine program and the things we do here. So, thank you again for letting me be part of this tasting and donate my time to Rotary. This has been a real treat for me.
I do have a question, actually.
Yeah.
One, I think you've done a brilliant job.
Thank you.
I'm my heart is filled with joy, first of all.
It's a Burketto.
It really is. No, but from the participation and, Alex's work on getting this, up and running, and then for the club and all of the club kind of, putting together the boxes and then you guys running it down. Patrick, thank you for running it down to me.
You're welcome.
I think that was yesterday. But one, if we fall in love with the wine, which if you would have told me yesterday that I would have been in love with this wine, I would have said no, it was going to be too sweet. Yeah. But I want to curl up with a pillow. So do you serve this? Are these three actually available for purchase currently at the City Club? Is it going to be out of stock next week? Do I need to run over there tomorrow? What's the 411 on the three wines that we tasted tonight in terms of?
I always carry this port wine at the club because it's easily one of my favorites. These two wines I have a real affinity for. In this case, with the half bottles, I source them directly from the importers of the winery. So I went to Lake Cole 41 and had this wine shipped to us. The Burketto, so I write for Wine Enthusiast, and I buy a lot of wine. We have 800 wines on our list. I brought this in specifically for this tasting. But what I do here for our members is I source wines to meet their palate. So yes, that is the case. If you ever have a wine that you love and you're a member of the club or a member, let us know. And my favorite thing to do is source them for our members. You'd be surprised that this wine is actually very reasonable in price. And really, I love this wine. But again, it's all about having new experiences. But yes, absolutely. We sell wine for retail to our members. And my point of pride in terms of tasting wine is to always find something different, something new, something exciting. So that's my favorite compliment, is to get that I've never had this and I love it, is the best thing a sommelier could ever hear. So I'm very pleased to hear that. Thank you.
So I have a quick question, Patrick. You ever tried any of the Coppola Chardonnays?
Yes, absolutely. I have a couple on my desk as we speak, in fact. Do you want to know how I feel about him as a filmmaker or as a winemaker?
No, as a winemaker.
I actually think the Coppola wines, just like the Mondavi wines, they've done so well for so long, and they have such beautiful estates that even at their price point, sometimes I think they get a little bit of flack from sommeliers about, they produce a lot of wine. I will tell you firsthand that the wine they produce at the price point they produce it at is far and away better than other wines. Yeah, so those wines are exceptional for their price point, and it's because they own vineyards that nobody has access to anymore. Yeah. So I would say the Coppola wines, but for their price point, because they've owned those wines for 70 years, are easily some of the, so at their price point, some of the best wines you can get in that region for their prices. Absolutely. Same thing with some of the Mondavi wines.
Yeah. Did you happen to know back in Detroit a gal by the name of Madeline Truffant?
I didn't.
Okay.
Is she a sommelier?
Yeah.
The person who taught me, being from Chicago, was a master sommelier in Chicago of Indian descent. Her name was Alpana Singh, and she is this really amazing sommelier. But probably the best palate in the world I've ever met in my life. But easily the best female master sommelier. Women have a much stronger sense of taste than men do, and I've always idolized female sommeliers well before. I mean, we just had a tasting with Peter Neptune, who's one of my favorite sommeliers. He's a master as well. But I idolize. There's 3 female sommeliers in the Midwest that are my idols, and I'll have to look her up because I very much appreciate them.
She used to work for Matt Prentice. He had a whole group of restaurants back in Detroit. And I did a lot of private parties with her.
Really?
Yep.
It's not a big club. I think there's my level of sommelier. There's only 280 of us, and I think there's only maybe 50 sommeliers at the master level in North America right now. And so it's a pretty exclusive club to be part of. So if you do one, it's pretty few of us.
Well, great job. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Alex,
I enjoyed it.
Fabulous, Alex.
Yes.
Yay, Alex.
Does anybody have any last minute questions for Patrick?
I have a question. Patrick, how are the fires that happened in California the last couple of years going to affect the wine, and are there certain years that we should stay away from that region when buying wine?
I think the fires, for a lot of reasons, are especially devastating in California. Maybe for the reasons you might think. The biggest reason is going to be labor. They can't actually get enough people because the fires have been so devastating for the last couple of years, and it's so expensive to live in California. They actually can't find enough labor to harvest the fruit in the harvesting season, and it's created a little bit of a crisis of fruit. But what I've discovered is it's actually the perfect storm. You have really dry, arid years, which are notoriously hard for producing a lot of yield. So they're very low yielding years, coupled with fires. So what I've noticed in wines that, it depends on how you feel about wine, but there's something called smoke taint, and there's this really fine dust that gets on everything. And no matter what, you can't avoid it. And it will be the hallmark of a vintage. So 2017 specifically, a lot of wines are going to have a smoky flavor to them, and it's from the smoke taint. And so some people would say, well, that's what that year was, and that's what that wine should taste like. And some people look at that as a flaw. But I will say it's been a really interesting year for California. The wines are going to be much more expensive in the coming years because the tariffs have put a heavier onus on those wines, of getting those wines. Also, we've had 5 or 6 of the lowest yielding vintages in California history. So there's just much less wine to go around. And so I've noticed that the cost of very good wine is going up very dramatically. So my advice to you is, if there's certain bottlings that you really like, maybe get a couple and sit on them for a little bit, because I don't see the next couple of years as being very good to the people who like affordable California wine. There will be a glut of low quality wine in the market and a shortage of high quality wine, because the high quality makers might not make wine or as much wine in bad years, and they'll sell it to wholesalers to produce what you probably find in Food Lion a lot. So no slight to them. Their wines are fine. But,
So that means,
yeah, it's gonna be a tough year.
Kirk, you better build up your wine cellar.
Yeah, if you like fine wine, now's the time to pick it up, because it's not going to get cheaper.
Hey, Patrick, when is Merlot going to come back after the sideways debacle?
I tell you what, I'm always I'll be the spokesperson for Merlot, because I think Merlot's my favorite varietal in the world. And I'll tell you this, the longer people don't like it, the cheaper it is for me. So as long, like you and me, we'll be on the Merlot train and we'll get better prices, because all the yuppies will drink everything else they shouldn't drink. So yeah, as long as Merlot is still not the darling child, I'm totally fine with that.
I got one word for you. S-E-A-V-E-Y.
All credibility, it's gone. You got to speak to the millennials.
That's right. That's spoken like a true millennial.
Kurt and your Merlot. Oh.
I got one word, CV Merlot.
CV Merlot.
That comment literally cost $1 billion in Merlot.
Yep.
They had to plow it under. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
CV Merlot. Put that on the list.
I'll add that to my list. You got it. I'm always looking for more Merlot.
All right. Well, if nobody else has any other questions for Patrick, we're not done quite yet. We still have 2 raffle drawings. But Patrick, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. This was so fun. I definitely think that we might make this like an annual event or something. Because I know I had fun. Everybody else had a ton of fun. So just thank you so much for spending the evening with us and for sharing all your knowledge. It really, truly has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to do the last small raffle drawing.
This is neat what they do.
Let me. Okay, so we are raffling off a wine aerator, and then I just found these really cute wine stoppers. So they're kind of funny, and I figured we could have a little bit of fun in 2020. So let me. Okay.
She brings up a roulette wheel.
All right, so the winner of the 4th raffle is
Needs music. Elsa. Okay.
Elsa.
Somebody bought some raffle tickets, Elsa, huh?
I know. So do me a favor.
Yeah.
Spin it again.
Okay.
And let somebody else win.
You're
such a Rotarian. I love it. That's very
all right.
Wine above self. Wine above self.
Wine above self.
All right, we have a winner, Tom. Congratulations, Tom. And then we are going to, I don't know, yeah.
Oh, Tom Packer.
All right, and then last but not least, we have our last raffle of the evening. It is a bottle of, I'm going to probably butcher this pronunciation, but the Aaron Malt. It is a Scottish whiskey that cannot be found in the U.S. This is from the private stock of Charles Edwards. So thank you, Charles, for donating this bottle for this evening. I know a lot of you have been eagernly awaiting this raffle. So
I'm gonna see their dog down there. See the dog. Oh my goodness, look at that precious dog.
Let's see. Okay, so the winner of this
eating chocolate. He's enjoying himself, whatever it is.
Awesome. Is
Hey, did you get a hot mic?
Congratulations.
Indeed.
Okay, so that concludes all of our raffle drawings for the evening. So thank you all for purchasing raffle tickets. I will get a final tally to you all. If not at Monday's meeting, but the following Monday. But I do believe that we have raised somewhere in the range of $2,100 for the club. So thank you all. Definitely exceeded my plans and my goals for this evening. So thank you guys so much for attending. I hope you all had a good time. I know I did. Thank you for all of your support. I think this was great, and I'm really excited about all the money we raised for the club.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, yeah, all right, I like it. Yes.
Tomorrow.
Note, and hopefully we can turn this into maybe an annual event. I know virtual fundraiser for October. It won't be this. It'll be a little bit something different, but so just keep that in mind. And unless Eric or anybody else has anything else to say.
She's off to the side posing all the time.
So thank you again to Patrick and Fred and the City Club, and thanks for everybody for attending.
Excellent job.
A lot of fun.
Very good.
Well
Well
done,
done, Alex.
Thank you. Great job, Alex.
Excellent, excellent, everyone. Thank you.
Sorry, Jim, you didn't win the whiskey.
That's okay. I'm in line. I know who's got the side door to the
Yeah,
cupboard.
I'd be bummed out about not winning that whiskey, but I got such a buzz on, I'm just completely mellow about it.
Who cares, right?
Well, there are a bunch of people on the online who wear kilts, and we're each in line for a wee dram. So, Mr. Edwards,
I have a few other bottles.
Mr. Edwards, we're absolutely depending upon your inventory.
Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. That's service above self, big time.
Right. Ditto.
Bye.
Good
job, Alex. Well done.
Thank you all.
Super job. Super job.
That's a great event, and I am ready for the next one, even if it's an Oktoberfest themed virtual fun.
That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, I'm hoping well, yeah, it'll be I'll have more details to come soon. But yeah, something in October.
Craft beer sounds pretty good.
Thanks, Alex. Good job.
Thank you all for attending.
Excellent.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Patrick.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Alex.
Alex, Gina.
Fun.
It was super fun.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Do I get my nap now?
Yeah, I definitely need a nap now.
I think cooking has just gone out the window in my house now. It's gonna
For
be
sure.
delegated
Good night,
to
John
others.
Boy.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah.
Very
Thank you all
nice,
for
real,
attending.
Mary, it's so nice to see you up close and personal.
You too. That's it. You know, the value of Zoom is not, it can be overrated, but I do love it.
Yeah.
Mary, are you at the beach?
We came back. We spent a month at home with beautiful Emma, and we're back here, and I took a sneak trip home to see her yesterday, and, you know, I'll take it whenever I can get it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You.
So, love y'all.
Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.